แล้วก็ไปยอบุเนว่าเขาคุพัวจากคุยได้ยาโดบะเพลกโลต่อดบล้อละล่ะนี่เป็นเลยคือว่าสุปาบุแค่เลยล่ะว่าลาโอละตัวละอบูดอบตัวดนอนี่ว่าพอเวติมันเอาเวติละโคบุดอบาตัดต่อเวตินี่ล่ะ
No Powa, no YA, and no 2A say are teachers who led their students, aged 2 to 13, out of Myanmar in search of safety in Thailand. In Thailand, they are free from airstrikes and shelling, but fear forced returns by Thai authorities. After the February 2021 coup d'etat in Myanmar, the military intensified long-standing armed conflicts with ethnic resistance organizations in Karen State.
ปยอตุเตวาลกญดอกลูกตาตุมุโดเค NGO ตุติดพามิเฮนุลปตวบูเมดเมมิเฮวซอลอตาบูดอบตวนี่อเวติกคาลกลพาโดลปตวบูนี่ลอตุพอสุกเวติดพาโอลบคบควะอาพัวโคบบาโอเวลดาเบเซนี่ลอเพเนอสกตอนี่กลตเวมุสามุนาอสดเตบา
They fled with just one bag and a pair of shoes each, traveling on foot for 4 days and 4 nights through mountains and conflict zones.
ยิตินอบายิตวอยิโดทอเพเนบาซาตนาเกตาดุเกทอเพเนโคลอบลิลอบาโยเวโดมาลบกเซโอเพเนกอนี่ลอลบตาตมูดาปูเพลก็เกลวดาเทดโบลบกบาเฮคริสุก็จะเตบุนี่ลอ
Everyone in the group, men, women and children, slept in an open field, braving harsh weather conditions with no protection.
เพคืออุตลาดอบาโอลบลบุนี่ลอปะดาวกดิลลอโดบาปะบาโอออดอมีดาลดาสุกลานี่ลอผู้ตาดนอนี่มีเววผู้เคยเซโคดอกว่าลก็กว่าถวยเวติโดบายิบาเกเนเวติโมปานี่ลอ
Without friends or family in Thailand, these refugees must rely on aid groups for food, water and medicine, but Thai authorities have not always supported aid initiatives.
เพลว่าคลุนีเวว่าดพูลาเฮฮิบวดามาเซคานีเอาไว้ที่บาเลลปก็รู้ดอดติกว่าติโดตมีตมูเอาไว้ที่นี่ลอว่าคลุนีเอาไว้ที่คิดเอาอย่าลอคีปก็ให้สุบโอดอเตว่าลปก็บาหาทกุลดาลอเพนี่ลอจดเตอปวบามุบาดาติดพาเฮดอมเวเปเรลบตาโกกาเดดอเอาไว้ที่เตเวว่าพุตาติดพาเลดบาคีดกีว่าพุตาดนอเปรลพาพอมุดอฮอเวดอซิซาบาตานี่ลอเอาไว้ติดแต่ว่าเลตัวเวติโกอาเดเนตัวเฮนิลเลชิกอบูเลตพูดอเตซาบาโคตัวบากิกิดากินิลอตัวบาเตบาเวดากสอบาตัวบาตอพลาทออดอโดดากดาพอติดพาบาตัวบาเตบาคาดอดาเวบา
The next day, Thai authorities loaded the group onto trucks and forced them back to Myanmar.
โยตุดอปกสลอตาเลิกเลกปาดบลูพูลอกาเลอเรลโซคาเวนิลอเอาไว้ที่เคลนิโซเวดอกโลดอกกว่าเวปานิลอปกเลสเตตุโกดาดอเอาไว้ที่ดิโตอกเปลโอเวโพตาติดพาบาซาเวติดกันนาเวบาปลอกาเวดอซาโบกโพติดพาลบาดาเตอลกบาเลเวเพเลนิลอ
Many of the refugees forced back to Myanmar can't return to their villages due to the Myanmar junta's ongoing attack on the civilian population. No Powa, no YA, and no 2A say crossed back into Thailand only to be turned back again by Thai authorities.
บาลมุโคสวาสกุตตนาเกอเวติเมเวกิกดากินิลอลอกาดิโตลอขอจิดบลอนิลอบาซาตนาเกดบลอญาอิดูอเวติวอกิวาลมุสาขอสกุตนิลอพอพดิโพตาติดพาดปลีดาลบาขอปโลลบาดาวอกิญอนัวเวติลีโคนิลอ
With airstrikes continuing around their village, both teachers and students undertook a second journey that took almost 3 days to clandestinely cross into Thailand. They are now in hiding. เปเอโดเวดาลก็จอเตอปอบามุบาดาติดพากันนาเปบดาวตานิลอเปเอโดโดนิบาเวดาตบลินิลอเปเอโดลวาโกกาเดโกเวดอดาเควตายาลโกมัวโกดอเปเอโดลปโพบลิติดพากมาลุบาดาลดาตบลิอปุนิลอปกเกกดาลบดาวตาโซลอเพลดาวตาริทอคานิลอ ป
ปปโจโบติดพามีดาพูตาโคตเมลเวติกดุเกทเวตาก็ตาเคลก็จะเตอปดัวก็บาปเมโดบาลตาตุทอกเกววาปูบาสาตนาเกนี่อาชากตเนปมีบาเวมุคือละมุนาสกตนี่ลอปมาโลบาดาโดเวดอตาพลิตาพูตาบาอยู่บานี่ลอปเมเกกดาสุก็ปยอเคเนบาติเตเมลนกนาหูบาปกสอตอดบลอลบาปกติเตนี่ลอ
And we also invited Kannavee Suebsaeng, Member of Parliament. He also have first-hand experience working with refugees. Next panelist is Next panelist is Chawaratt Chawarangkul, Southeast Asia Program Manager and International Detention Coalition. His nickname is Mick. The last panelist is Waritsara Rungthong, Project Manager and Refugee Rights Litigation Project. We are going to start now. We just finished watching the film. As we can see that we are seeing a lot of global conflicts and wars, like in Ukraine, Israel and Palestine, and Myanmar, which leads to a big wave of migration. As we can see recently that as the Israel and Palestine conflict, there's so many people who have been killed. And as we can see that there has been a big wave of migration. So, Kun Manop, as a member of parliament and a member of the Committee on National Security, what's your take on Thailand's role in this, and how should we be responding to the influx of refugees? Thank you for the question. Since the 2021 coup in Myanmar, there have been a lot of violations on human rights. They've been fighting against many groups, such as Karen people. I've been closely following the issues. There was only me who talked about this problem um, in the parliament. And recently, I follow as local people sent images to me. There were a pregnant 8-month-old pregnant woman. There were so many cruel images that I saw. So a question, since we are neighboring countries, and why these problems are happening. As a member of the parliament, since the last government, the 25th parliament, I've been talking about this issue everywhere I go. No matter it's in the parliament or in the media. There are many people who want to offer the help to the refugees, such as food, water, or other humanitarian aid, but they have been barred to go into the local area that got affected. There are so many humanitarian aids sent. There are more other cruel images that that I saw. I would like to use the word refugees, even though Thailand did refuse to use the term. There are two groups of refugees. There are old groups and new groups. The old group is from has been in Thailand since 1984, if I remember correctly. And Thailand still fails to address the issue that has been going on for more than 40 years. So it's impossible for these people to have the same equal rights as Thai people. In my view, there are minimal action to address this issue, no matter is the Prayut Chan-o-cha government or this government. Despite the fact that Thailand and Myanmar had so many kilometers connecting to each other. The government have been inactive towards this issue. And I would like to say that even in the current government, the Setar government, there needs to be a firm stance or more sustainable solutions that can form peace. Thailand has been known as a country that is leading in many principles such as the trade, human rights, but in the past 9 years, it has been deteriorating. And as a neighboring country, it's Thailand's chance to step up again. And bring the discussions among Thai people and international people. I would like to ask that as you are deputy chair of the Committee on National Security and Border Affairs, and you are focusing on refugee issues directly, what's the main goal of this committee, and what are you expecting? And what are you expecting to see from Thai policies? My main goal has been this committee has come from my position since the last government, the 25th government. And the Move Forward Party has approved the motion, and we invited Kannavee Suebsaeng from Fair Party to join us to sign the motion together. And we held a press conference that Move Forward Party and Fair Party would like to propose a motion we don't want to wait for the ad hoc committee anymore. And that's why I chose to be in this committee on national security, border affairs, national strategy, and national reform. Khun Mik is also in my team. And Khun Kannavee, he formed another committee in terms of to take care of the legislation. I divide refugees into two groups. The first group is the camp-based refugees who has been in Thailand in the 80s. Some people who have been watching this, you might have not been born yet. Some of them have resettled in the third country, like in the US. But some of them are still they were born in the camp. As my struggle to sort out how are they going to settle next. I used to go and ask them, they were born here, so they don't know where exactly their home country is. The second group is refugee with older age. So it's the subcommittee's objective to find the solutions for them. For the new group, which emerged after the Myanmar coup, which occurred in 2021. As I told you before, this group have been the old group have been living in the borderline. But the new group, there is no clear status of where they're about. Some of them live in the temporary shelters or safe shelters. And when there are fighting happening, they would move closer into the country. But for the refugees who move closer into the inner area of Thailand, they are the vulnerable groups. And we don't know the data about them. And we still don't know whether they are refugees or illegal migrants. And the subcommittee who's exploring this is their commitment to work with civil society and the academia to find out. We just had our third meeting. We invited the National Security Council and other foreign affairs, also UNSCR, and other involved organizations. We look into the all groups of refugees who live at the 9 provinces, nine districts in 4 provinces. and then with the new groups, and then we will, our goal is to find out the solutions for them. After listening to Kun Manop, it's clear that the lawmakers are looking into the issue. We knew what was happening, but then we need to study more and address this issue publicly. Another thing that I would like to ask you, that since you are working with civil society, as someone who's been deeply involved in human rights, particularly with migrants and refugees, you have gone through many different Thai governments. Since you are working in this field, do you feel the current government is moving in the right direction regarding refugees issues? And since the past until today, what are the positive and negative things? And what more do you think needs to be done? Thank you. I would like to thank the Ford for the opportunity and inviting me to join this panel. If you ask me what have I seen, the same thing that I have been seeing is that Thailand still has not ratified the Refugee Convention. And technically, it still says that the country has 0 refugee. But they also, and they try to use other words to avoid the more direct term. For example, for political refugee, they would use the term that someone who cannot go back to their own countries. This is one of the main challenges that we have been working on. Since we are talking about changes, I would like to talk as an NGO, and I have been working in this field for 10 years. I would like to talk about the development in terms of the policies. And they are divided into generations. So the first generation happened during the Indo-China War. Since the Myanmar crisis in 1988. This generation there were many organizations involved, such as the UN. There were international organizations and foreigners. Which is relatively new to Thai people. And since many of them use English as the main language. So there were many foreigners who came in to work on this. and address the humanitarian issues and policies. And the governments had been inactive. So during that specific generation, so in the second generation, there were more tourists coming in. There were many foreigners coming into Thailand, and including the refugees. There were refugees coming into the urban areas. There were around 5,000 urban refugees back then from around 40 countries. And there were increasing amount of people who were working on this issue from civil society. There was another development that I saw. And there were Thai people working on the policies to address the issue. And there were increasing number of Thai people who worked on this. They knew how to negotiate and they knew how to bring the issue to the authorities. This is what happened during the second generation. There were also more development in terms of the ideas. Such as the alternative to detention or ATD. How the alternative for the children. And during this time, there was also a coup that happened. During the coup, some policies have been frozen. And some of the policies implemented were connected to the so-called security of the country. There was another change that I saw. For the third generation, it was connected following the second generation. There were more opportunities to be in touch with the authorities. There were more drafting of the policies and legislation. There were more talks about prevention and suppression of torture and more concrete principles. But however, there was not properly implemented and become effective. For the fourth, for the so after the coup, that military regime lasted for 9 years, and then we have another election. There was more. There'd have been more talks in terms of the policies. the issue have been widely approved by the lawmakers and politicians. This pushes some drafts into the parliament and invite the public to discuss about the issue. As I am in another NGO, when I work with the people who are affected, the most important thing that that needs to be done is the implementation of the law, or even a space to talk about the issue. I think this is another level that civil society can participate. Since we are talking about this, I would like to ask another panelist, is Kun Jup or Waritsara Rungthong. She's been working as a human rights defender for a long time. So you are coming from a legal background. You were probably taught that law is a tool for maintaining peace and justice. But years in this field, you might have been given a different perspective. So how do you view the role of law now? And with your experience, how do you think that people, not only Thai people, but everyone can access to the legal services? Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me. I still believe in the law. In the past 2 or 3 years, especially this year, with the new Thai government and the new committees and subcommittees working on refugee issues. Personally, I think it's very fun. But when we talk about the laws, since I work in the Bangkok area, there was still minimum amount of lawyers who work with the refugees. And I feel that using the law to help these refugees are still minimal. The main challenges for me is there have been many obstacles to use the laws to have refugees. And not only many organizations have been affected by this. We're not asking for a new thing. That was my first thought, that it was not working. There was a lot of pushbacks from me, but I have been trying to use it more often and often. Since I use it more frequently, it was working now. It required patience. Like this year, I would like to thank the MPs and everyone who are involved and NGOs. I got some feedback that why are you helping these people, not Thai people? But since there were a committee set up, many people can see that this is an important thing. Many people in the parliaments brought this up. And it show access to some kind of data that I previously did not access before. Actually, I used to request for the data before. But when the lawmakers requested for the data, they could do it. So I am very happy. And since there are more knowledge sharing like this panel, I can feel that we can exchange more knowledge and data about refugees to each other. So I would say that this is not entirely hopeless. There have been talks about refugees and migrants. And there were questions that whether these people are dangerous or are they going to be the threat to the Thai people in terms of the employment. When the political candidates were campaigning to get votes, I would like to ask Kun Manop, since we are working towards the refugee, what would you like to say to the Thai people who voted you into the parliament? And how Thailand can benefit from this? Is a mechanism in the parliament, and I would like to invite the public to use this mechanism. Is a committee, and there are lawyers belonging to the people and the lawmakers belonging to the parliament. We are talking about fact and limitations. We should share in exchange about this. I think that helping Thai people trapped in Lao Cai, many authorities involved, whether they are in the Interior Ministry or in the security, they barely talked about this because this issue involved the diplomatic relations between the countries. If we did not work closely with the academia, we wouldn't know about this. I asked the security authorities if there are a large wave of refugees, like 100,000, what would they do? I would like to show my admiration towards them, but there are some questions. How are they going to use the budget of the country? And since you asked me that since we are a Thai person, why would we care about other people who are not Thai? First, I would like to say that is the human being. We all are humans. Let's think about this. If we are going to leave our homes, if it's not that necessary, we wouldn't leave. And these people, they escape death. They are they are entitled to human rights. The sun belongs to everyone, right? So if they escaped to Thailand and we do not properly manage them, there are concerns about the healthcare, about the crimes. If we do not have the measures to manage this issue properly, what people are concerning are going to get worse 10 times. There are many types of people who came into Thailand, whether they are political refugees, vulnerable refugees, or migrant workers. If we know more data about them, we would know how to properly implement measures for them. And some of them, they are people with high skills, like doctors, nurses. In my perspective, I think why don't we let them to be doctors and nurses in Thailand? Wouldn't that be better? But uh the current solution is that is more ad hoc and temporarily. And another issue is how to make the country of origin maintain peace. Since I was a member of parliament the first time, I've been working hard on this. These people cannot purchase anything, whether it's a home or a vehicle, and they have financial transaction issues. They are global citizens. They are entitled to all the rights, whether it's the rights to the education and the rights to citizenship. But the delay that is happening is the mechanism within Thailand, and it needs to be addressed by the Ministry of Interior itself. They didn't give them the money, and this is the major problem. Actually, I used to propose that we use millions of budget to address this. And there is another strategy for them, which is that's open the humanitarian corridor. The mission that Thai government have to work on is that we have to open all the humanitarian corridors, whether it's the Shan state. It doesn't have to be in the Thailand, but it can be in the Myanmar's land. We have to push for that to happen. The government has to talk about this. The leaders have to talk about this. As a Thai person and an MP, there have been a lot of Thai people who are interested in human rights issues for generations. We have to, it's the fact that Thailand have been living with refugees for a long, long time. There are so many refugee shelters. Some of them have been resettled in the third country. There are thousands of them that resettle in the US. Thailand is familiar with the refugees. Some of these people got a citizenship. They were in Chiang Rai and Chiang Mai. We have lessons. Why don't we use these lessons and implement more policies? Why don't we have more proper measures? Some Thai people must have not really understand this. So we have been very familiar with the refugee issues. I would like ask Kun Mik, since we have been working in the development and human rights field for a long time, what are the ideal solutions or legislation that you expect to see from the government? And currently we have a prime minister named Sethar Thaksin. Do you think that the ideal solutions that you expect to see will happen? Thank you for the question. I agree with Kun Manop in terms of human rights and the equal human being. As Thailand is entering the aging society, currently Thailand has 66 million people. And if we are still relying on people to have more children without seeking more workers from outside, in the future, we might have to see Thai people as a minority. So we must see, we must bring in high skilled people into Thailand, at least 200,000 people per year. If we can bring these foreigners to learn about Thai language and Thai culture, and integrate them into Thailand. As Kun Manop said, there are many high skilled people that can potentially resettle in Thailand, and they don't have to resettle somewhere else like in the US. This is very important. We had a chance to talk to NESDC, and they still haven't seen the solutions to the aging society and the lack of the skillful people in the future, the lack of workforce in the future. We can see that new generation of people not all of them wish to have children, and it's very difficult for Thailand to go back to where it was before without the long-term solution. To address your question, Kun Yu, we are trying to learn more about the mechanism in the parliament. There are official language that we have to learn. It's quite a struggle, but we are trying to learn. For the expectation, there are 5 points that I would like to say. First one is to address an official voice, to have a document, to have a record and recommendations in the parliament. The second one is to raise awareness among the authorities and leaders. Since we are talking about the restructure, The third one is to develop the solution exploration. Whether it is the UN or officials, it should be more exchange of information so that we can explore the solutions together. And we would adjust our perspective to match each other. Next is working on a report for the government. And the lastly is the blueprint. I think we have around 4 months for the research. And we came up with the guidance to work with civil society, with political parties. It's like a roadmap to address refugee issues in the future. But if you ask me that within this government, what can be changed? I hope that the government would bring but I also understand that since this government is new and there's security reasons, at least I hope that the government will use short-term solutions and then they would move on to use long-term solutions. I would like may I add there are two committees who are exploring solutions for refugees. For my committee, our goal is to study researching the camp-based refugees and offering short-term solution or ad hoc solution. But for Kun Kannavee's committee, we look into all the legislation, like the Immigration Act. So these two committees will work hand in hand. The short-term one, which is mine, and the whole structure would belong to Kun Kannavee's committee. Initially, we would need the major committee to approve our motions. And our reports have to be approved by the parliament. So we were talking a lot about human resources. And we can see that our human resources is decreasing. What are you expecting of the younger generation? They don't have to be an NGO. There's so many ways that younger generations can get involved. There is a network in the northern Thailand. And I also know some network in the capital Bangkok itself. There were some news reports that these people can read about. They can also get in touch or reach out to the organizations that are working on refugee issues. And I believe that these organizations would welcome them with open arms. Speaking as a, even though there is no job position opening, but there was one time that there was a law student who reached out to me and they said they want to learn more about the issue. And I think we can share the data or knowledge with them. Pimik, do you have anything more to add? Yes. For younger generations, they can find more data on the internet, which is like not widely available previously. But right now we can see more data about refugees on the internet, like the Fortify Rights website. And then they can join as a volunteer or donate items. You can contact Fortify Rights and other organization working with stateless people. They can also join us through our activities, our talk, panel discussions, which would raise awareness. So that the perspectives toward refugees could be changed. Many of us have a first-hand or direct experience with refugees. And we can share the stories about them. Many refugees live with us, and some of them live in Bangkok. Sometimes we see people who are non-Thai and we should be more open-minded towards them. And in June, we would have a refugee day that invite refugees or migrant people to do some activities like cooking. We should be more open-minded and see that this issue is not far from us. I think that Thai people must have an impression from Syria war. Like there was an image of a boy killed in the war. I think there shouldn't be any images like this happening. Like two adults were fighting, but a kid have to die. And we can see that such violence is happening very near to us, which is Myanmar. The most cruel picture that I saw is really near us. If you don't have time to join Kunmik or Kunju, you just have to be open-minded. That's a wrap for the panel, and I would like to ask the audience, whether the audience from here or audience from home, if they have any questions. There's a question. Hi, I have a question about the challenges. Since I work in the field, I was wondering if what are the challenges in the parliament? Since like in the field it works, but it doesn't really work in the parliament. That's a good question. As someone who worked with the parliament right now, the main challenge is requesting for the data from authorities. For some cases, the authorities hold the rights not to give the data to us. So it requires a lot of negotiation sometimes. Sometimes we have to talk to them through the back door. And we have to tell them that we are working on this for public understanding. I also help Kun Manop and Kun Kannavee as a secretary to work with them around 2 or 3 days per week. Or as a subcommittee, we also have more staff. We also have people in the civil society sector and academic sector. And that's another challenge. And we are quite busy. I would like to know if the audience in the live stream have any question. The first question is for Kun Manop. But of course, first question is for Kun Manop as a deputy chair of the committee. I'd like to ask, So the first question is for Kun Manop, whether in the life and death issue, uh, how would they address the issue? And the second question is for the image of the government, whether it is a good news or the government is worrying about the images only. And the third question is about the long-time refugees who have high skills. Can they enter the business sector to help develop the country? For the first question, when it comes to life and death issues, we decide to make a call to the authorities. Or, for example, in the case of Lao Cai, of Thai people who were trapped in Lao Cai, if we understand the limitations of the authorities, some issues can be talked unofficially on the phone. And for the business sector, we have been talking a lot that since Thailand lacks workforce, why don't we take in refugees who have high skills to work? And we can see that the refugee camps are regarded as a foreign land. And that's a conflict in terms of the policies. And the Khun Kannavee, who is leading the committee, is looking into this. In terms of the policies, there were some policies in the past that benefit the migrant workers. But we have to ask Kunmik in terms of the populations and the younger generations who have children. There's an increasing cost of living, and many people don't want to have children anymore. And this issue is really related. What's another issue? Uh, this issue, I'm not quite familiar, so I will let Kunmik talk about it. So there are eight promises made by GCM or GCR. Many ministries have been involved, like Ministry of Social Development and Human Security and Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And they make commitments and proposes to the cabinet. And the question is, why are these commitments exist? They see the commitments as a benchmark and set the direction for Thailand. Like in the next 4 years, Thailand tried to address the issue on this, but it's not legal binding that it would happen. But it set the direction for the authorities to follow. Um, and you asked about our perspective as an NGO towards these commitments. We see that these commitments open the conversations. And for the business sector, that what can we do? So many law firms who are private companies. There are lawyers who are willing to give free services, free legal services. There's national screening mechanism. People who go through this, they might have access to some rights. And at some point, they would be able to work. Like the migrant workers who can work freely in Thailand. And this is the prospective opportunity that can happen in the future. I think that's a wrap for the panel discussion. I would like to say thank you to all the panelists. So it's a long journey for Thailand until today that's another election that we get a new government. We must have seen many changes in terms of the policy, societal perception. And right now we can access or reach out to the MPs. The era is changing. Therefore, the human rights work it's like the light at the end of the tunnel for many human rights workers. And I would like people to keep supporting such democratic values. And thank you everyone for coming and supporting us. Thank you so much.